Hi, so we just wanted to share a little bit about Patrick and what he and Brittany have meant to our family. And so it all started in fifth grade when Patrick was our son Matthew's camp counselor. And he went to elementary camp with them and just had a great time as he's pouring biblical truths into their little hearts. And so that started out in fifth grade, and he continued to minister to the boys through middle school, sixth, seventh, and eighth, just taking them on hikes to Kennesaw Mountain or just looking for ways to text them and encouragement or something like that. And so then this Sunday evening, back up. Before that, Patrick and Brittany got married, and so we had a bachelor party, a young men's bachelor party for Patrick at our house. That was so much fun. The boys had a great time roasting Patrick, wondering how in the world did Patrick get a girl like Brittany, who's so beautiful inside and out. And so we had a great evening just roasting him and just blessing him in his new marriage. And the boys all wrote a little something for Patrick, and it was just really special. And then our son was an usher in the wedding, and that was just such a privilege and an honor for him. And then fast forward a little bit more, Pastor Johnny had a service on a Sunday evening, and he was telling the church that we weren't going to really have Sunday night services anymore, and that he really wanted people to form small groups in the homes and start ministering and discipling that way. And so right when the sermon was over, Patrick leapt out of his seat, made a beeline for me and said, "Amy, Todd, I feel like I need to have a boys' Bible study in your home on Sunday nights. Can we do that?" And I'm like, "Yes, by all means." And so that started 2.5 years ago. He started just really studying God's Word, and once a month he would meet at our house on a Sunday evening faithfully. He's always texting me, "Can we do it this? When can we do it?" And I'm the one who was always like, "Wait, we have something, no, whatever," but it always worked out about every 4 weeks, and just a wonderful time. He would show up at our house, and always came early so he could just kind of hang out with the boys and just be silly and goofy. And then after about 30 minutes, they would just buckle down, and they would flat study God's Word, and it was all extremely relevant to them and where their walk is with the Lord as young men. And so...
Yes, and Patrick, my earliest remembrance of him, I used to collect the Sunday school rolls, and he was the fifth grade Sunday school teacher, so I'd always go around and collect his roll. But then when my son became a fifth grader and he started teaching him in Sunday school, it just developed from there. It went to high school camp, or not high school camp, but elementary camp, and then from there it's kind of engulfed into this Bible study that's been being held at our house. And from my perspective as a father and seeing this guy, Patrick, that, at the time was probably 28 and was taking it upon himself to start a Bible study for kids and wanted to be a part of their life, because he said this group of boys was one special group that he had really seen was tighter and closer than any other group. And we built the core of the Bible study off of that. And I want to say maybe the first Sunday night might have been 12 or 15, and at one point we had over 30 kids in the basement. It was getting to the point to where we didn't have enough chairs. They had to sit on the floor, they had to sit on the mantle. A couple of times in the summer or spring we even put it outside on the back patio. But Patrick really poured his heart into them, and you could see it because he would challenge them. He said, "I don't want this to be a Bible study that you just come. You're going to have to invest some skin in the game as well." And he gave them homework assignments, and they would come and they would share their hearts. And there's so many funny stories of people that were first timers that had never been, that heard about it, wanted to come, and they welcomed them, and they became a part of it and started coming every week. So I was just overly impressed as a father that have 3 kids of my own, and just seeing Patrick at such a young age, so mature in the Word and what he did for these boys.
Goes back to 8 years ago in third grade when he was my camp counselor, and I remember walking in the B building over there to register, And I walked up to him, and I thought this guy's going to be such a boring guy. But little did I know that that week of camp would change my life. About 3 days in, that week later, at camp, the altar call was there, and I felt God tugging on my heart. And Patrick and I had grown close over that time. So I went back, and I told him what was happening, and he kneeled down with me for probably a good 20 minutes and just prayed over me. And I recommitted my life right then and there. And from then on out, my life has been drastically different, and I have Patrick to thank for it and God moving in my heart to thank for it. But another great memory that I had with him was first time ever riding acrophobia at Six Flags. I'm telling you, if he was not there by my side, I would have lost it, like completely. But I remember he videotaped it, and I still have the video. We were going up, and I was looking down, but he was right next to me, and he was like, "Don't be afraid, Zach, don't be afraid. I'm right here with you." And we finally dropped, and that was the best ride of my life, because Patrick, the guy that I loved for forever and ever and ever, was right there next to me. And I feel like that goes for everybody that knew Patrick. They knew that he was right there for them the entire way. He was never going to leave them or forsake them, much like Christ is explained in the Bible.
As I was thinking of memories about Patrick, one came to mind. When I was in middle school, probably in 2011, I thought it was a game and fun to steal Patrick's keys because he had them on like a little clip. And so I just steal them after church and go hide in his car, which then led to him letting me drive his car. Keep in mind I was a middle schooler, and so I don't know why he let me do this, but I loved it because just driving around the church parking lot after everyone had left, and it was really fun. My brothers would join me, sit in the back, and Patrick would actually even let me take it off by myself. And so once I did that, like a couple weeks later, looking back on it, he showed trust me, and he loved me enough to let me take his car out and drive it just because as a little middle schooler. And so Patrick was one of those guys where he would text you or he'd talk with you in person. He'd always be saying hello, and he wouldn't just be a regular guy. He really did show God's love, and he really did love me and many others, and he wanted to be on a more personal level with us and really teach us, not just he was a Bible study teacher for me, and he wasn't just a Bible study teacher. He really lived out what he taught, and he really he wanted us to get what he was teaching to us every month or so whenever he talked, but it was more to where like he showed us it, not just talked to us. And so he was an awesome guy. He was my mentor all from elementary to now, and he definitely impacted me in so many ways, and he will impact me from what I've heard about him from others.
When I look back at all the different people who have spoken into my life, and I look back at a lot of my old camp counselors. It's funny because I couldn't remember a lot of them, but I always can remember Patrick Price. He's different than all the other camp counselors, and he's different than all the other mentors I've had in my life. Because after that 1 week where I was pretty sure he was getting paid to hang out with me and to speak into my life, after that 1 week I was getting text messages from him. Into middle school he was visiting us at church. Into high school he was leading Bible studies with us and meeting for Chick-fil-A or coffee or whatever it was. And you don't get that with all the other people or men that try and speak into our lives. You know, some of my camp counselors were older, some of them were younger, like college students. But none of them had that willingness to hang out with me afterwards. They was one and done for that 1 week. But Patrick, he was with me for 6 years after elementary camp, and that's why he is known as the best counselor of elementary camp, and he was known as my best mentors because the constant continuation and follow-up with me. In fact, one of my memories that was just so great about him, imagine as a middle schooler, you have this 25-year-old or 26-year-old around that time who would come after every Wednesday night and come hang out with you, and he's way taller than you, and you look super cool because you're hanging out with this out of college guy who is just amazing and cares about you. And then one week he comes up and he comes up to us, and we all gather around him because he's telling us he has good news, and this is my favorite memory. And we all gather around and we're all excited and we're asking, what's Patty's news? And he looks at us and he says, I'm engaged. I've proposed to the most wonderful woman. Of course, we're wondering how Patrick could even get a girl, Miss Patrick. But no, we're all wondering, did he skydive while he was doing it? Was he doing flips? Because this is Patrick we're talking about. But this is the greatest moment or memory with Patrick in my life, just because it shows, and looking back at it, and at the time, it just shows how much he cared about a group of 12-year-olds and a group of 16 and 17-year-olds, a group of 10-year-olds at the time. He cared about us from all different times, and not only did he care about us, but from elementary camp, continuing every single month that we met, he would always impact us with 3 main core ideas, and it was in every time he talked with us that was deep. He always told us to disciple others, just like he was doing, and he told us to have a good family, to treat the family right, and to be the man of the house, and he gave us step-by-step instructions on how the Bible tells us to be the man of the house, and how to take care of your wife and kids, and how to do all these incredible things. And he also told us how in everything we have to glorify God, and everything we do through our life, that God is our main audience, and that's who we do everything for. And I know that's how Patrick lived his life, and that's why Patrick took time for those 6 years, and before, whenever he started, took time out of his life to invest into mine, was so he can see us grow up and glorify God like he did, and have a good Christian family and raise good Christian boys and girls. And Patrick made more of a difference than he realized in my life. Even though I'm outspoken, I was reserved in other things, but the things Patrick meant to me that I didn't tell him couldn't be written down in a book. That's what I got for him.
Pastor Price, when I think of him, I think of just a man of God who he loved everyone, and he included everyone, but above all, he loved the Lord. And he made an impact in me at an early age. When I was in 5th grade, one of my memories with him that just changed me is it was 5th grade and I was tired, and I came to him the first night of camp, and I came to him at like midnight crying, telling him, I want to go home. This isn't worth it. I wasn't happy. And he brought me out to the front porch, and we sat on the front porch at Big Timber out at elementary camp. And we sat down, and he told me about how great God was and how great camp was going to be. And then we sat down, and he told me to listen to the crickets because you could hear them crazy loud that night. And we sat there for a good 15 minutes, and he'd tell me about how much God loves me and how cool God was for making those crickets, and that those crickets were singing the song of God. And that day just really impacted me, because that's just how Patrick was. He loved everyone, and he just cared about you. Even if, you weren't one of his close boys, he cared about you. And so over the years, me and Patrick grew closer through his Bible studies and things like that. But really in high school, when we started going to Bible studies monthly, that's when he really started discipling me. And Patrick shared things, how to be a man and other things like that, that really impacted me and shaped me into the guy I am today. And so I'm thankful for Patrick, because without him, I wouldn't be who I am. And I really hope that just one day I can be the man of God that Patrick always was.
One impact that Patrick had in me was he inspired me to be a Sunday school teacher. And so just his impact in me and how he really prepared me for middle school and high school. He's the one that, made me want to be a Sunday school teacher. And also, last year I got to be a camp counselor with him at elementary camp. And that was so much fun being a camp counselor with him. It was fun to invest with the boys with him, and fun to go to the back and and talk stuff. But Patrick, he really invested in me. The discipleship group he really taught me how to be a man of God, and he taught me how to be pure, how to be, a leader, how to, actually do what you teach. And that's one thing that Patrick did. He, whatever he taught, he did it. He wasn't those guys that taught us what to do and then he didn't do it himself. He was the example of what he did. And that's just Patrick Price. That's him. So
one of the things that he impacted me the most was fifth grade camp. I was feeling away from the Lord. I got saved whenever I was 7. I didn't even know what I was into. And then the Lord convicted me fifth grade night, and I felt like I didn't even know the Lord. So I told Patrick, I need to talk to you whenever we get back up to the campground. And so I walked into the room, and then I started to cry. Then Patrick started to cry. And my brother, he was in the room too, he started to cry. And then he led me through the prayer, and I could just feel how much Patrick cared about me. And it was just, I can't describe it. It was just so, he felt like a brother, and I just know that the way that he felt for me, he felt for all the guys and his family and all that, and he put God above everything.
One memory that I have with Patrick is it was a while into his Bible study. I mean, I'd been going for a few weeks, and it was a time when I wouldn't be able to have a ride home, so it looked like I wasn't going to be able to go, and Patrick just out of nowhere offered to take me home because, I mean, I lived out his way. And it wasn't just that he offered to take me home. I mean, throughout those next couple weeks that I rode home with him, every time we just have such deep conversations about the Lord, and just we'd get to talk and dive deeper and deeper into the Word, and just he would mentor me during those car rides. I mean, even though they were 15 minutes, it was one of the best times that I had with him. You could tell that he was in love with God, in love with his family, and that he was willing to sacrifice anything for them. And he was just such a good friend to, I know, me and to each and every one of the guys in his Bible study, and he cared so much for each and every one of us.
When I think of Patrick, I don't know whether to cry or laugh. He was just always just spot on. He was that guy, right when you meet him, you want to be around him. So I met him in 4th grade. The SAP said, my friend was Josh Sapp. He said, you got to meet this guy. He's the best. He's God-centered. He's funny. He's great. He's just the perfect guy. And I later found out that that was real. And so I had to be in his Sunday school class in 5th grade. And then ever since then, we just like never departed. I remember the first time I was going to go be a elementary camp counselor. I would not go unless I was with Patrick, because he would just make it completely better, like a whole different place. He always knew what to say and how to put God and things in the right perspective, and I couldn't think of a better role model than Patrick.
To me, Patrick wasn't just a Sunday school teacher, a mentor, a role model, and a friend. He was all those things, but to me, he was also a brother in Christ. And the role that Patrick played, still is very important to me, because he was my first Sunday school teacher and role model the summer after I got saved in my 4th grade year. And so I remember hearing that I was in Patrick's 5th grade Sunday school class from some of the older guys, and hearing all the funny stories, and I was so excited to be in his class. And I remember going in there and just feeling so welcomed, and instantly I feel like we kind of had a brotherly connection, if you will, and I think we bonded pretty quickly. But undoubtedly his class was filled with lots of fun times and lots of stories and jokes, and he knew how to relate to us and be funny with us, but he also knew how to bring it down, be serious, and take us seriously as young men. And that's something that I couldn't respect more in him. And I remember one time in 5th grade Sunday school, it was time for us to pray as a class, and it was over, and instead of him just telling us to bow our heads and close our eyes as we had done all through elementary school, he told us to push our chairs back and get down on the floor on our knees. And he said, I want you to realize the magnitude of just praying to the Lord, and just the importance of praying on your knees and humbling yourself before him. And still today, that's something that I try to practice, and I wouldn't trade the time I had with Patrick for anything.
Hey, so I'm Matthew, and to Patrick I was always Matty Matt. I don't know if you've ever heard that name, but he was always Patty to me. However, he hated that name because he said it sounded too much like a girl. But that's really who Patrick was just he always put a smile on people's faces, and he made everyone laugh wherever we went. So in turn, we would always try and make him laugh, and we gave him a hard time about just about everything that we could. For example, being 30 and having what we thought to be a receding hairline was one of the things we gave him a hard time about. And also, he was a parole officer for a time, so we always called him Mall Cop. But a way Patrick really left his legacy was he had a Bible study at my house, and he would just always come early to eat dinner, and he would expect me to serve him sweet tea, but he really just wanted to hang out, and that was the type of person that he really was. And one night we actually had Bible study outside, and afterwards everyone was hanging up hammocks and chilling in those, and Patrick thought mine looked really comfy and hopped in with me, so I'm just going to end that story right there. But on a more serious note, we met in 5th grade. I was in 5th grade. He was my camp counselor, and he's really invested in me ever since. And ever since 5th grade, he really prepared me for middle school and what was to come. And something I loved about Patrick was that he just taught a raw gospel, and he really practiced what he taught, not what he preached, because he always would stress to us that he did not want to preach to us, but he wanted just to teach us, really. And his life is really just a testament and a testimony to a life of, always living a life of leaving a legacy and just being ready for when God calls you home, because we really do not know when our final breath is. But Patrick was really just a mentor to me, but he was really a brother and a friend and had a huge impact in my life.
What did you think about Uncle Patrick?
That he was nice.
Yeah.
And that he was funny, and
Y'all got to wrestle all the time on Sundays?
What else did you like to do with Uncle Patrick?
I like to play outside with him. And
Did y'all shoot things with the BB guns?
yes.
What did you think he was good at?
I think he was good at
Anything?
picking me up.
He was good at everything, wasn't he?
Picking me up and throwing me.
Picking you up and throwing you. Yes, he's been doing that from day one for you. What about you, Clay?
Like when I have this, play with him.
You like to pray with him
Yeah,
Yeah.
and play with him
yeah. And take pictures.
and take pictures?
Yes.
Uncle Patrick didn't
Yeah, y'all
love that.
videotaped a lot of stuff, didn't you?
And we get to look at books.
Yeah, he was a good reader. What about you, Cam?
I like playing with him.
What was your favorite thing to play?
With Legos.
Legos? And what about you, Daddy?
Well, I knew Patrick from when he was like 14. And he was actually like only this tall. And so now he was like this tall. So, no, we had the Sunday lunches and wrestling and all that. He was a good man.
Brittany has always been one of those people that's so special to so many of us. She's mentored so many young girls, including my girls. And so I'll never forget one day after church, she came over and she said, "Hey, what do you think about Patrick Price?" And it was such a slap in the face because we knew Patrick, we knew her. We've been praying for her and for just a stellar guy to come along. And honest to goodness, it was like he was right under our noses. Who had even thought about that? And so I was immediately so excited. Yes, he's awesome. That would be, I was just flabbergasted that we hadn't thought of that. And so it was so exciting to watch them blossom together. My son was in Patrick's 5th grade Sunday school class during this time. And so every week when he would come in, they would say, "Did you ask her yet? Did you ask her yet?" As 5th grade boys can do. And so it was fun to get to kind of watch it from that perspective too, as he taught my boy, and to watch that explode on that side. And we knew Brittany on the other side. And so that was fun to just get to watch the Lord put 2 people who had invested in young people so much, to watch them come together and to watch that union be what it was. So that was awesome. And I spent a lot of time with my kids over the last couple of days, and the pain that's gone on, especially with Benjamin. And one of the things that we've talked about that I think is just indicative of Patrick's life is he was teaching 5th grade Sunday school boys. Sometimes we think we need to be doing something grand and glorious and big, and we need to be in front of people, and we need to be on a stage, or we need to be out preaching, or he was teaching 5th grade Sunday school boys. And I'm just telling you, I've got a bunch of my own kids. 5th grade boys, they can be pains in the rear end sometimes. And so he took these boys that sometimes you think, are they even paying attention? You leave at the end of the day and think, I don't think they heard anything I said. But I bet you that if we could line them up, there'd be hundreds of boys that would talk about how he impacted them. How awesome is that? He touched so many kids, and most of it came through a 5th grade Sunday school class that he tracked with them. And then when they became young men, he was mentoring them. And that's pretty awesome. And that's an encouragement to my heart and to so many people's hearts. It's just wherever God's planted you, in whatever area, whether it's with the preschool or the elementary or the middle school, or wherever you are, be there and make an impact. So thanks. Thanks to Patrick for saying yes to 5th grade boys, and then impacting so many, and then impacting his own boys, because I do believe that this will all come back to impact his family because of the impact he made with other people. So I love you, Brittany. I love you, boys. You guys are awesome. Thanks.